On this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast, we've got Kane with the good hair.
And tainted blood. Oh, tainted blood.
Don't touch me, please!
I cannot stand the way you tease.
Now let's really do this.
Welcome to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. I'm Diana.
I'm Liz.
And this week we're going to talk Season 10, Episode 14, The Executioner's Song.
That's what it's called.
It is. It is.
Yep.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it describes all the episode too. Sort of. Good on them. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you this week?
It's I don't know. Like, why is that question so triggering?
It's not meant to be.
I don't know. I'm breathing. We're here.
Did you go to the Ren Fair?
Well, I went to the Sherwood Fair, which isn't the Ren Fair, because the Ren Fair is in Houston, and the one in McDade is the Sherwood Fair. Sherwood. Am I saying that weird? Sherwood. Wherever Robin Hood was fucking from, the Nottingham place.
Not Sherwood Forest?
Yes. So, it was a good time. I saw a vulture, saw a raven. Ooh. That was the important thing. I saw a vulture and two ravens, and they were part of the bird show. So they were pretty cool. Yeah. The vulture was named Ziggy. He did not vomit in front of everybody, which made me sad. But the ravens were also pretty cool. I wanted to hear them talk. We didn't go through the mews though, and it was humid as fuck because it was raining for the first couple of hours, but it was like not a hard rain. It was a misty fucking rain that made it really humid. And so every once in a while you'd be fine. And then you'd be like, oh, it feels great. And then you'd be like, oh God, I'm sweating so bad. And like, we asked like the first drinks we got, which were the only drinks we got. I was like, oh, let's get snake bites. Those sound really good. Mm-hmm. And then they gave us black velvets instead. Okay, so if you don't know, there's a difference between those. A snake bite is a combination of a cider and a lager, traditionally a Bass, and a black velvet is a combination of a cider and a Guinness. So those are two very different things. Yeah. They both have cider in them, but so they're different but similar. So we got the black velvets and just accepted them because we're like, that's fine, we will drink these. But then they made our stomach feel bad, and so then I did not drink anything for the rest of the day, and I did not have a turkey leg.
Oh, no turkey leg. Oh.
Yeah. So I do feel deprived of my turkey leg, but I also didn't want to waste a turkey leg, but I also didn't want to have a greasy turkey leg in my stomach. That's because I had to drive another hour after that and then drive like 3 hours home. So doing that with greasy turkey leg in your stomach
sounds unpleasant.
Didn't sound fun.
I'm not a turkey leg person, which I know some people find to be blasphemous.
It is.
I'm just not. I'm not like against them. I'm just not excited about them.
It's just the concept of a giant fucking bird leg.
I guess.
You feel powerful.
But with the birds and be like, look what I'll do to you next.
Yeah, but I can guarantee you I will never for the rest of my life be able to eat a fucking turkey leg by myself. Those days are so gone. See, what I need is like someone with like a teenager. So the teenager can get the turkey leg, right, and I can get I just get the two pieces off it, which is what I want.
Right. That's all
you satisfy the taste and the craving, and that I don't want to puke.
There you go.
Yeah. Children got to be good for something, right?
For sure.
Eat for my acid reflux, children. But yeah, beyond that, I mean, it's a fun fair. It's not huge. Right. It's easy to walk around. There's a lot of good performers. We saw a dude escape from a underwater, like, underwater cage and he didn't die. So that was great.
Cool.
That was
Some Houdini shit.
Yeah. I always like some good magic stuff. And you know, they have good longbows. The swords are kind of disappointing. As for kind of the crafts, and I think what it is just I find I've been to these craft stores too many years, and most of the people don't really rotate out their merchandise. They just kind of go off the same thing. So once you've kind of seen them, it's sort of the same kind of witchy kind of, you know, things, but they're not great. Sometimes they are, but I've already gotten the good ones, right?
There you go.
I will say Valkyrie's. I don't want to say like Valkyrie's headpieces. But it is a crown. These ladies who make crowns, and those were fantastic. They had like one that had rubber ducks and all these crystals on it that were cool. And there was another one that had like the full like face veil on it, which I love on a crown. But it was so fucking humid because originally I was going to get a crown, and I just kind of walked through there like, nope, not putting anything on my head. Sorry.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Unless the crown like has a fan embedded in it. Yeah, I brought a manual fan and a portable electronic fan. And I did use both of them at the same time at some points. But
that's a lot of fans.
I don't fuck around anymore. I take fans with me everywhere I go.
All the fans.
Oh,
you've been carrying fans for a while. Only fans.
Yeah, well, I've been sweating for a long time.
Well, but you're usually prepared is my point.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you're a fan enthusiast.
I am a fan of fans.
Yeah.
I am my only fan about fans. How meta could you get into fans?
Can you do an OnlyFans of fans where it's an OnlyFans
it's
someone
just
fanning themselves?
It's only fans. Not even a person. Only fans. Somebody has to have done that. We cannot be the first. We are not this clever.
No.
So.
No, I was telling someone the other day, I was like, it was related to someone working on band or song or something names. And I was like, just remember that there is no original idea anymore. And somebody will have thought of anything that you've thought of already.
And it would have
been. Make sure the rule is just make sure you can Google it. I don't know. That's all I got.
And they made a TikTok about it.
Oh, yeah. Just make sure you can Google it. That's the only rule. Yeah. Well, fun. That's fun.
Yeah. So that was my weekend mostly. What about you?
I did. Birthday
I will say one other thing. Yeah, besides Diana's birthday, whatever her birthday, who cares? The other thing that I want everyone to know is that because it is spring, it is also baby animal season in Texas, and they have been showing up this year. I have almost wrecked so many times. There are baby goats out there that are so freaking, they look like baby, like little deer that are walking on ice, and they're just stumbling around, and there's baby horses everywhere and tiny baby cows, and they're just all over. And so if I run into you in Texas, sorry, there was a cute animal. And I believe that is an excuse that is permissible by Texas law.
Is it?
If I'm looking at a cute baby animal, I can do whatever I want.
Noted.
It's a baby animal clause. You cannot be held accountable for what happened when you saw a cute baby.
You just got to have an attorney on retainer for that one. Yeah, it was my birthday weekend.
Woo!
I did not have a party.
But you did things. You kind of had a party.
Well, I mean, we did family dinner and went to Far
People
Out.
Celebrated
super
you.
Fun. Yeah, no, we did, and it was lovely. And then Babe and I went to a punk rock show Saturday and went and saw Murphy's Law and Agnostic Front. And then we went super fancy date night dinner on Sunday at Town Hearth, which is one of our super favorite spots to go if you really want a badass martini and some steak. And then we did. So that's what we did. And then I took a day off and we bought plants.
That's exciting. The plants are very exciting. Plants are always exciting. My new seed packets are here. I'm about to start figuring out and strategizing what I'm going to plant and raise. And I already told my uncle he's going to help me build my garden boxes because he wanted to come hang out by my pool. And I was like, okay, you can do that.
If you build it.
But
I'll put you to work.
Yep. Well, he can help, if my uncle, who is a contractor, helps me build an elevated garden bed for my porch, it will take about an hour. If I do it, it will take about a week.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, And I also got a new nail gun. So I'm very excited about it. I know. To go with my new, I know everyone's like, she got a saw and a nail gun. What is happening? Yes, it's.
I didn't know about the nail gun. You told me about the saw.
Yeah, because to make the planter beds, I needed a nail gun. And I've been research, trying to figure out which one I needed. Apparently I needed the Brad nailer. There's so many different kinds of nail guns. Who knew?
Dave bought one of those and I haven't gotten to use it. And it's bullshit.
That is bullshit. You should go build yourself something this weekend so you can.
To build.
You build yourself a garden planter. I'll send you the plans. There's so many things you can build. Anyways.
I know.
All right. So enough of our yickety yakketing. I don't think there's really any news in the Jared Jensen creation world right now. I think. Yeah, so I think we're just ready. Let's just talk about my honey bear. Let's talk about this episode. So the Executioner song, this was season 10, episode 14. It first aired right after Valentine's Day, February 17th. It was a romantic Valentine's Day episode, 2015, right? And so it was directed by Mr. Phil Sgriccia, who we last saw direct this year season in fan fiction. That was episode 5 of the season, and was written by Robert Behrens, who did episode 7, Girls, 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 which I think is really... You can hear him kind of crafting Rowena's dialogue. I think he's really responsible a lot for the way she sounds. So we'll talk about some of her fun language in this. So we're going to start off in prison.
In prison. Yay. No, I'm just kidding. And we've got this guy's kind of crying and asking for mail, and but then he goes from that to just taunting the guard about his wife, which is not very nice. So we piece together through context clues that we are on death row, and this guy who's in solitary is in
well, I mean, he's not in solitary. He's just on death row.
Well, he's on death row, but so
he's death row is
solitary
cells.
Yes. Solitary cell. And so he is talking about how he killed a woman that had the same name as the guard's wife. He's just not very nice.
No, he's not. He is threatening the CEO, and we also learn that he's being executed in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So then the guard does not really give in to his teasing and leaves him.
Which is good for you. That's part of your job, is not to get, riled up by these guys, right?
Yeah. And so he leaves, and as he's leaving, we see the lights on the security footage of the same hallway are flickering. And now the guards are in their little guard station getting their coffee and talking about how this guy was giving him the normal grief that he always gives him. Tommy was talking his shit again. And we've got some mysterious dark dude, dark as in shadow, walking down the hallway. The lights are turning off, and we've got the sound of power buzzing and chains, and the lights are turning off down this hallway. And then the guard that was getting taunted sees this on the camera, and it's about to be WTF. And then all the power goes out, in that hall. So it goes pitch black. Then it pops back on, and everything looks normal. So he ignores it. But we see that what's happened now is that Kane is inside Tommy's cell.
Tommy is getting a conjugal visit from the father of murder.
Is that what it is?
That's what I would expect to happen.
Oh, yeah. And so he does reference to himself as the father of murder. And he says that Tommy...
Which is pretty, it's kind of arrogant, right? To call yourself the father of murder. I mean, I know he is, but it'd still be a little humbleness.
Yeah, humility is a real thing, Kane. Need to practice that a little bit.
Just a little bit,
Just a little bit.
Just pretend to not be so prideful.
Right, but I guess he's going to call out. Tommy was, according to the state, he's killed 6 people, but by actual count, it's been 9. And Tommy is kind of scared, but then he tries to hit Kane, and that doesn't go well. So Kane stops him and uses some fancy Kane power to control his arm, and then he's like, oh, am I gonna punish you or I'm gonna save you? I'm gonna do both, and then boops him and they disappear.
Well, before he does that, he also takes out a giant fucking knife, and it is a big fuck off knife, and he stabs him in the stomach.
He does.
So
he boop stabs him.
He babs him. Boops. Stoopy. He stoops him.
Stoops him. Stoop boop. Boop
Anyways,
stab.
that knife is ridiculous.
It's a boop.
It's a boop. So, anyways, yeah. So
it's a big old. Is that a Bowie knife or something? I don't know.
I know. Actually, I think there is one of those in my mom's house that was like from the Alamo thing that my dad or my brother bought at like an auction, and it looks like a fucking sword. And I'm like, what the hell do I do with this now that the men folk of my family who care about big ass knives? I mean, I've got some big ass knives, but that's too big of a knife.
You're not going to put that in your purse and carry it around with you?
It's not a good purse knife. It's just not. But so anyway, so then the next we're going to go is we are going to see the boys are pulling up to this prison. And we finally learn where this prison is. And shock and surprise, it's in Texas. What? We don't have any prisons here. I don't know anything about that. So this is the Polensky unit in West Livingston, Texas.
Correct. I did not look up. Is that a real place? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know.
I didn't look it up either. It's not where there is not a prison in any place called Polensky. I mean, but that would be the unit. I don't know where West Livingston is. Most of our prisons are in Huntsville. And
yeah, that's the biggest one. And there's some other ones further out. So I don't know. I've never heard of it. It does exist as a city, and it is not far from. Oh, it's not far from Huntsville. That's kind of
okay.
Good. There you go. All right. So Sam and Dean.
Thanks for that. You're sorry about that sidetrack.
Yeah. Well,
but no,
that was valuable info.
You were going to be looking it up if we didn't. So
exactly.
We saved you the Google.
Slightly east of Huntsville. So Sam and Dean are discussing serial killers, and I definitely can relate to Dean in this conversation because Sam is like rattling off serial killer facts, and he's like, yeah, it's a hobby, it's true crime, and Dean is like, WTF, this is a lot.
Well, also, I think this was true crime in 2015, which is a very different animal than is true crime in 2025, right?
That's
right. There's a fucking true crime cruise that's about to happen, right? And so this is pre-podcast, or we had podcasts and they just weren't as they weren't as well known, right?
Yeah, they weren't as common.
To be this much of a nerd about serial killers, and that was the original true crime for this era.
True.
Because true crime has been around since there was human beings. People like this, like the first mysteries, all newsletters are
murder mysteries, all that. Technically, if it was based in truth, it's a true crime.
Yeah, and just people are fascinated as a species. We are fascinated with murder and violence because it's what affects our society, right? Anyways, but to know serial killer stats, that is very specific.
It is.
So, but I also think these are very basic. Who doesn't know that Jeffrey Dahmer killed 17 people? Come on.
Sure. I knew that off the top of my head too. Definitely. So they're saying that they're with the inspector general, and so that's why they're there to meet with the warden, and they get let right on in, and we definitely get an immediate shot of a guard on horseback, because of course we do, because they're at a prison in Texas. So they go in and they're meeting up with the warden, and they discuss, this is Sammy Tolliver. He was convicted of 6 murders in 2009, and he escaped a locked cell on death row. So, and when they meet the warden's like, hey, good luck finding anything out of TDCJ compliance. And I just want to give a gold star to the writers for making that reference, because that is Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and that is actual terminology, and yay, I was impressed. Not because they had to include it or get it wrong, just because a lot of times it would be lazy. It would be very easy to not include. So that's my compliment. Compliments to the writers. There you go. But yeah, so Sam's going to go talk to the warden so Dean can inspect the cell with the EMF reader and everything else. The warden's super defensive though, because he's like, look, everything's on the fucking up and up here. And I don't blame him for being defensive because he's sure as shit going to get blamed no matter what, because everybody knows that you can't just disappear out of a cell. And he's going to go show Sam and Dean the security footage, including where you can see the silhouette of Cain. And Dean recognizes him immediately.
He's like, yes, I know that beard. No one else has this beard silhouette but Cain.
Exactly. So there we go. They move along and we get a phone call where we see a cell phone ringing. It's Dean trying to call Castiel. And Cass has a demon tied up. And he is torturing or trapping this demon to try to track down Cain. And he's like, but I don't know where Cain is. We're stay away from each other. Then finally he's like, no, I've actually seen him. He's a county over. I don't really know why. That's all I know. And then Castiel kills this demon.
Yeah, which is, you kind of didn't think he was going to, and then he just he just pops him. So
weird.
Yeah, Cass is just over demons and just killing them. So we're going to go from there, and then we're going to go down to hell.
Yeah. And Crowley and his court are listening to the grievances of a crossroad demon who is upset about not getting credit for his soul collections. Which, I mean, sometimes you have to just ask for what you need. But Rowena is unimpressed with this entire presentation and interrupts the court because she just doesn't think that what Crowley is doing is what she would do. So she suggests that they split the baby, and she means literally cutting this demon in half, which I don't really understand how that solves what he's asking for, but really she's just suggesting we kill this motherfucker at the end of the day. She's not really suggesting any kind of a solution. So that's fun. But there we go. She wants to do this as a reminder to others to not whine, because whiners beget whiners. And that's why she would never give Crowley sweets when he was a kid.
Because he was a chunky child, a bit of a bloater. And also, like I was saying earlier about the writer and Rowena's dialogue, you'll see that she has a lot of alliteration in this. And so when she's talking about splitting the baby, she calls the demon a pulling, pathetic, greed-grubbing git. And it's just like, there's so much alliteration in this whole episode. It's so great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Crowley's like, sure, we'll do what she says. And goes with it. And this demon does not know what the fuck just happened.
Yeah.
So Sam and Dean are now at a food truck, and Dean is getting pupusas. And that sounds delicious.
It does.
But they're upset because Castiel is not answering their calls. And Sam is learning about Tommy to try to figure out why Cain might have gone after him. But they also have figured out that Tommy's dad has gone missing. At this time, though, Cass calls back, and he is in Illinois, and they're like, hey, here's what happened with this fucking dude in prison. What are you up to? And Castiel's like, yeah, I know about this guy, Tommy. By the way, he's dead because he has one of Tommy's sneakers in his hand.
He has a shoe.
And Castiel, we see, is standing in the middle of a makeshift cemetery in the middle of a forest. So,
but my question is, all right, so if the remains in this were dug up by someone, I think the situation does get cleared up by this, but how would you explain Tommy's bones being corpse going from, I guess maybe he escaped and then he died there would be the thing. It'd just be a very hard thing to explain.
Anyways. It's real weird. And then there's this whole field of dead bodies, and it's just very odd. I'm very confused.
Yeah. So, but we've had that before in the show. They like a field of corpses. So, yeah.
It's true. Nobody asks a lot of questions.
All the corpses go in a field. So while he's in the field of corpses, our Zaddy shows up, and he's just so attractive.
Yeah, Kane's there, and so Cass is like, gotta go, bye, because he's gonna go talk to Kane. And Castiel is like, hey, Kane, what are you doing? And he's, what's up? And Kane's like, I am cleaning up the mess that I created. I've got it's not just my taste back for killing. And this isn't just a massacre, but this is my genocide because I'm targeting killers, fighters, and thieves. I'm killing off my bloodline, culling 1 out of 10.
Well, no, he's not culling 1 out of 10. What he meant about the 1 out of 10 was that it means like 1 out of 10 humanity-wise. Because what Cass was saying is that because Cain was descended from Adam and Eve.
Right.
If he's killing off his bloodline,
that's a lot of the population.
That's a lot of people. That's 10% of humanity is what. So Cain's not picking 1 out of 10 of his bloodline. He's killing all of his bloodline. It's 10% of people.
So it's 1 out of 10 of everybody.
Yes.
Not 1 out of 10. Yes, that's what I was saying. Sorry.
Yeah.
I said it wrong. Yeah. So he's killing 1 out of 10 of people. It seems like a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
A lot of people. And so he's going to be like, hey, by the way, how's Dean doing these days? I heard he took Abaddon down. Figure he's not doing very well, though. And Castiel's like, what the fuck? I just need the cure for the mark. And Kane's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course there's not one.
Look at me. I'm here. But I will take care of Dean for you.
Mm-hmm. And he poofs out. Poofs out.
He does. He poofs away. And we go back down to hell where Rowena has had a wee idea about the high-ranking member of the Grand Coven, Olivet.
Yeah. So she wants Crowley to help her. And, yeah. And he's like, yeah, nice job on this long con. That's what you wanted all along, obviously. And she's like, oh, of course I was manipulating you. Duh. That's what we do. You do it too. It's okay. But also, we had fun today. Let's do this. Let's go to the real world for a little bit and take care of this witch.
Yes. And Crowley just walks away. So we don't know if he's down with this plan or not. So we go from there back to the bunker.
That had to be a drive, right?
Right. So we got from Texas to the bunker.
Really fast. Anyways. Yeah. And they're like, oh shit, we've figured out that Cain probably is wiping out families. Now we also know that Tommy has an estranged son in Ohio who's 12, who's posting on social media 10 years ago. What the fuck, kid? Where's your mom? Anyways. So Dean's like, well, now we got to go save this kid because this kid's in danger. And Sam kind of paused him. He's like, what are we going to go do? We're going to go to save this kid from Cain? And Dean's like, well, I'm just going to kill Cain.
But I'm also like, Sam, why are you reluctant? Like, do you want to let this child die?
Yeah, it's all weird. I don't know how I feel. This whole exchange is odd. Now, I get that he's calling out that Dean's going out half-cocked. But at the same time, like...
12-year-old child.
Like, well, don't get mad that Dean's going half-cocked. Go, hey, let's make our plan so we can go do the thing. I don't know. It's really weird. So yeah, they go pack up guns. And so one, they're loading up a gun bag, and we need to talk about go bags because this is ridiculous. Every fucking time they have to go, they're loading a gun, they have to do the shots. Why didn't you have different go bags for like different scenarios, right? You can have some that have like different types of weapons, things in there, but this is taking too much time. You don't need to do this every time. This is ridiculous. That's a very, very good point and very reasonable. I think at this point we should have that taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
We should have various go bags. Just grab and go.
Yep.
You need to rotate things periodically. That's fine. That makes sense.
That's what you do with a go bag.
Yeah.
You when things come about it, you refill it, but no. Anyway, so Dean is talking to Sam about how Cain told him this day would come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Castiel is there too and listening to Dean talk about how Cain resisted the mark for so long, and then Dean kicked things up with the blade, and so now he knows that there's only one thing that can kill Cain, and that is ODT.
Old Donkey Teeth is back.
Yeah. And Castiel's like, yeah, you're right. And Sam's like, wait, what? I don't like this because I'm afraid Dean's never going to come back from this wielding ODT again and wielding it against Cain, which is a reasonable concern.
And Dean knows, and he grumbles, and he says, I know. And then he says, I am Batman. He didn't, but I thought he was about to. He is Batman. So anyway, so we go from the bunker back down to hell. And Rowena has a plan.
She is war planning against the Grand Coven Witch. She's ready. She's like, let's fucking go. And she's talking about how she's ready. She's going to use these, get past security and all the things. And Crowley looks kind of unimpressed. I think that was a little rude.
Yeah, but she's still like, she's pretty good. She's like, she's got this rune of amaranth, and that's going to like throw him off. It's illusion work.
Yeah.
But then Dean calls Crowley.
AKA not Moose. And he's like, BT Dub, Kane's back. And I need the blade because it's real dark and there's a kill list and you're on it too, Crowley. So give me the location of ODT.
I'll text you the location in my Signal chat. So Rowena is talking about the nasty spell she has to finish off Olivet, but now she has to wait, and she's not happy about that.
Not happy. So Chris Crowley's going to get ODT out, and Rowena's like, what the fuck? You're going to go listen to give that to the Winchester? That is bullshit that you're fucking helping them out.
They're not your friends. They're ruining your reputation. Stop helping the fucking Winchesters.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I have a bigger concern than that. So shut up.
So he runs off to wherever this child is. I couldn't remember when I wrote these notes.
Ohio.
I was like, Ohio or like, yeah. So Sam and Dean are there, and Cass says the kid is, and Cass are there, and Cass says that the kid is out in the barn playing with the basketball.
It's a real weird setup with this like double barn with a basketball hoop in it. I don't know. Maybe that's an Ohio thing.
It's cold, baby.
I guess. And Sam's like, what the fuck? Are we using this kid as bait for Kane now? And I feel like it's right that he's slightly distraught about this now.
It was a shitty thing to do to a child.
But also, what are the options? So, and now, Crowley's not thrilled with this plan overall because he's like, I don't really trust Dean with the blade because they might kill Crowley. Like, I don't know. He's like,
and just how he is with it, right? And so,
yeah. So there, we get them watching the kid playing basketball. Sam and Dean discuss the plan that they need to capture Kane, and then Crowley will give the blade to Dean to kill him. But yeah. And Dean is very upset, and he tells Sam that he meant what he said about how he is going to go down swinging to beat this. He just didn't realize it would be so soon, and he's scared.
Scared. Dean Winchester, frightened little boy.
That's upsetting.
That is upsetting. So we've got frightened little boy, Dean Winchester, then real frightened little boy who is listening to his headphones and gets startled, and there is Kane.
Yeah. And right as Kane approaches this little boy, Castiel intervenes and tries
he comes to this kid and he's like, I'm here to kill you. And then he pulls out his big fuck off knife. And if I was that child, I would have shit myself. Yeah. Like, that is terrifying.
Yeah, it is upsetting. Very upsetting. And then Castiel like shows up and is like, it's okay, kid, I'll protect you. And so there's other rando dudes there now trying to like Jedi mind trick blast this guy with a knife and fails. Luckily, the kid runs off at this point because Kane manages to fling Castiel's blade away quite easily.
And Cass himself, right? So he can fling Cass around.
Yeah.
So then Sam comes in and he shuts the door of the barn, but then they remember that Kane can teleport, so that doesn't matter. So there he is.
It's so weird. He's like holding this door like shut. And I'm like, this motherfucker just flung an angel and Sam's going to hold the door closed.
He's going to hold the door closed. So Kane just, pops in there because that's what he does. And then Austin begs and then Kane stabs him, but it's an illusion.
It's all an illusion. Because the real Austin is long gone. And Kane knows that this is 18th century magic.
And the rune of amaranth, which was what Rowena was talking about earlier with Crowley. So Crowley picked that little piece up from his mom and used it on Kane.
Yeah. So, and he also... Kane knows that he's in a trap because they also like strategically make him stroll across the floor, and so
he's
now
in a devil's trap. That is a whale song.
That does sound like a whale song.
It was supposed to be a guitar, but whatever.
He's in the devil's trap now. So, but apparently that won't hold him for long. So it's like a temporary trap? I don't know.
Well, because he's a knight of hell and he's Cain and he's just too strong for a devil's trap. The devil's trap doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It just seemed like it was like...
Especially because it's from the Key of Solomon and it's made up shit. Anyways, so Dean thinks Sam in the ring is a liability. And he needs him to take out whatever comes out, whatever that is. And Crowley is like, I am here for that. I will kill you, Dean. And he's just like, here's ODT.
Yeah, go for it. He's just sending him on. And Dean's like, no, I got this. I'm going in. And once he gets in there, Kane starts monologuing, as we expect, because Kane's a bad guy, and that's what they do. Mm-hmm. So we get our monologue about what he thinks Dean is there to say, and Dean's like, no, I'm not really here to say anything anymore. And Kane's like, oh, you should be so clear-sighted now. I made my deal with Lucifer. I left a stain on this earth with this.
No, he released a stain upon the earth because that is grosser. And it's much grosser to release your stain upon the earth.
He released his stain into this tainted bloodline.
And now we have tainted blood. Dun, dun, dun.
Tainted blood. Ooh, tainted blood.
Yeah. So Cain is really into this, right? And so he's like, not all killers are my descendants, and not all my descendants are killers, but enough are. And wouldn't the earth be better with fewer Tommies, Leons, and Hughes? So,
and he used the word extinguish.
Extinguish. So let's talk about genetics and crime. So can there really be tainted blood? It's lore. So, genetics and crime. Nature versus nurture. That is probably one of the longest running debates around. Are some people more genetically disposed to commit crime? Well, maybe, but it kind of depends. Right? So there is the thing that has been termed the crime gene. And there is a myth that one gene causes crime, sometimes perpetuated by shows like Riverdale, where Betty learned that she had inherited the serial killer gene. That was for you, Diana.
Thanks.
So, realistically, multiple genes likely interact to create this risk of someone being a criminal, and those are combined with environmental, societal, health, and other factors. But there is the MAOA gene. So that is what they were talking about in Riverdale, along with another gene we'll talk about for a little bit. But this is the main one. And that's the one that's traditionally called the warrior gene. And it has been historically associated with aggression and violence. And while everyone has this gene, certain variants have been linked to criminal behavior. It was first identified through a study of a violent Dutch family that was published in 1993. That began in 1978 when a woman walked into a hospital in the Netherlands to talk about the shitty men in her family. One had tried to rape his sister. Another had tried to run his boss down with the car. A third had forced his sisters to undress at knife point. I don't know what they have with their sisters, but it's gross. Then also the woman's granduncle had traced their family tree back to 1877 because he was concerned with all the crazy men in his family. And he identified 9 other men with some sort of violent mental debility. Then the geneticist Han Brunner and his colleagues determined that all of these men in that family suffered a defect on the X chromosome, the defect crippling the enzyme monoamine oxidase, sure, which breaks down neurotransmitters like noradrenaline, adrenaline, serotonin, and dopamine, helping to regulate mood and behaviors. So it is thought when there is not enough of this enzyme to break down the neurotransmitters will then accumulate. And while you would think that a bunch of dopamine or serotonin or these other things would make you feel great, it can instead lead to hostility or even homicidal tendencies. This gene, though, is located on the X chromosome, so women can carry 2 copies. But those with the weaker Y chromosome, just kidding. So those they can only have 1 copy. That would be men. So studies have found that low MAOA expression causes women to be happier, which is the opposite of what they observed in men. But then there's another study where females with the high activity MAOA gene were found to be more aggressive. Some studies has also found that the low MAOA expression causes, okay, I just said that one. And then my past DNA stuff says that I am most likely to have the high expression. So in that study, though, it also said that the high expression for women can cause mood disorders and panic attacks. So it can either make you happy or make you miserable and have a lot of anxiety, or they just don't know because science is. So there was also a 2014 Finnish study that suggested that the MAOA gene and the gene CDH13 were associated with extremely violent behavior, and that at least about 5 to 10% of all severe violent crime in Finland is attributable to the aforementioned MAOA and CDH13 genotypes, which I don't think is enough. This is my problem. I don't have enough. I don't think that's a causation. Mm-mm. That's not a lot. 5 to 10%. Like, that's just, that to me, that just seems
like anything, right? That just seems.
I don't think there's a causation for that. No. But also besides like that,
that's a low correlative number, right?
That's what I feel like. I feel like a lot of these samples are just.
Yeah,
you sounded very smart when you say that. And beyond just like kind of that sample size problem, there also is this whole nurture part of the nature versus. You just can't rule that out. Research and common sense show that childhood abuse can lead to antisocial behavior. Mm-hmm. A 2005 study from the Journal of Police and Criminal Psychology, that sounds like a fun journal, revealed that 26% of serial killers were sexually abused as children, 36% were physically abused, and 50% were psychologically abused. But that can't always necessarily be the case. It's not 100%, right?
Correct.
So there are people like Ted Bundy who killed, how many people did he kill? What is his stats, Diana?
No idea.
It's around 100. He displayed, he killed a lot of people. He displayed characteristics. We're not getting to Bundy. All right. He displayed characteristics of the low MAO variant because he had a pretty, like, his childhood home was pretty stable. Yeah. And he was just kind of like, was perceived as a normal person until a girl broke his heart. Dude. All right. So, yeah. Then there's
bitch made shit. Sorry.
Yeah. So a 2017 study in New Zealand showed no direct connection between lower MAOA levels and aggression, but there was a link between childhood abuse and aggression. And of course, there was always a link between traumatic brain injuries and serial killers. Ed Gein, Gary Hadnick, Richard Ramirez, Henry Lee Lucas, David Berkowitz, Jeffrey Dahmer, Albert Fish, John Wayne Gacy, all of them had TBIs. Like I think like. Fun. It's a ridiculous amount how many got hit in the head, right? But we also can't discount the role epigenetic changes play in creating violent offenders. Epigenetics refers to the study of changes in gene expression that occur without a change in DNA sequence and can be influenced by environmental factors like stress, diet, exposure to toxins like lead, which is always presented as the theory why there were so many serial killers in LA in the 1970s because of the high lead content in the gasoline in the air. But because of like all this, like I just don't think I don't know if this is like if you can be conclusive about any of this, right? I feel like serial killers are such a small, like if you're especially talking about serial killers, right? Like that's such a small like portion of the population, and even if you're going about criminals themselves, that's still such a small portion of the population, right? Yeah. And how do you do this stuff? Like always, how do you do scientific studies about behavior? And also, I just feel like there's too many factors that can go into this, right? There's even if you do like they do a lot of twin studies and a lot of adoption studies, right? So it'll be like, but even then, I think there's just too many factors. Like there's just no like
how do you cannot control for all the variables at play.
There's just no way you can. I mean, beyond like just the hereditary, like every person's family is going to be different. Like how like
the perception of how they're treated, their perception of their experience, what they actually experience is never going to be identical.
Yeah. And, like every house is going to have a different amount of lead. Like some kid's going to eat some paint. Some kid's going to get hit in the head with, a seesaw and he's going to become Jeffrey Dahmer. But the other kid that got hit in the seesaw, that became a, Nobel Peace Prize winner,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, of course I went down and like looked for all these markers in my stuff. So most of the MAO variants are not really, you can't really test them with things like 23andMe and Ancestry. Like those aren't really markers they're looking for. You can take that data and then make some correlations from it, which is how I get to I likely have the low one. And that also has a lot of things that are related, like CDH13 is also related to ADHD and a lot of other like mood disorders. So likely, but that is not a marker that 23andMe tested for. Like, so I can't see if that's that particular marker or something I have. So I don't know. I mean, I love genetics. I think it's fucking fascinating. I think epigenetics is super fascinating too, thinking about how we change our DNA, right?
Crazy,
So if you think about this from a hereditary standpoint, like kind of going back to the Kane's line of murderers, right? Mm-hmm. Would that be something that could be inherited? Like some of the less point. Like some of the studies would be like, I had an adopted child, right? And they would be comparing adopted children of people, like kids who were born to incarcerated mothers and those who were born to mothers who were not in prison.
Right.
But I'm like, and they're like, well, the ones who were born to mothers in prison were more likely to be criminals. But I also think, well, if your mom was already in prison, she's probably not coming from a good socioeconomic background. So aren't there a lot of other factors besides the fact that she's your mom that are influencing whether or not you become an offender? Like, again, it just goes into, there's too many variables.
Yeah. Or is it just your emotional reaction to what happened? Or is it something, genetic? Or is it socioeconomics? Or is it something else? Yeah. That's fascinating. Or
is like beyond like the genetics, or is it just learned family behaviors, right? Like are some families beyond, like I know we can pass down some social, like, inherited trauma is a thing, but I mean, could have just all of Kane's family just been assholes?
I do live by the general, and this is not my non-scientific rule of that generally 10% of the population are assholes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what your job is, your socioeconomic background, your race, your religion, your anything else. I think about 10% of the population. I'd like to think it's less than that because I'm an optimist.
But is it a genetic thing or is it an environmental thing? What makes you an asshole?
That or evil or whatever, just like super fucked up. I think it's like
but that's also why it's fascinating too, and why I mean,
how does it work out that way?
Well, and ripping it apart like for yourself too, right? You're like, because you have. But we also know like it's free will, right? And that's the whole purpose of the Supernatural show is we're questioning free will, and that's I think. We're going to bring this all back now. So that's what the Kane murderous line and in this kind of supernatural world of free will is what we're really talking about here, I think, which is why this, the whole Mark of Cain becomes like super fascinating here too. Because we're like,
because Kane's like, well, there is no, he's basically talking about predetermination. These people are predetermined to potentially be murderers. And Dean's like, fuck you, I'm fighting this shit. I'm going to fight with my will.
Well, I think Kane also didn't care those who didn't cut, like, it's like, well, you had a chance, like, there was a 50% chance that you would become a murderer. So because of, and that's, it's a pretty, it's a Minority Report thing, right? And so there is, if this is why, I don't like eugenics or other predictive crime, like, yeah, because you can't murder somebody because there's a 50% chance it will become bad. Because free will does exist, or at least we believe it. So we're team free will. That is
team free will.
Team free will. All right. So back to this kid. And now Kane's asking about the kid and he wants to know how Dean feels holding his ugly ass knife.
And kid could go either way, and Dean views the knife as a means to an end. And Kane says, then do it.
Do it, dum dum dum. And then they fight, and Kane is very good at dodging.
And he's very good at dodging, and then starts whooping on Dean pretty hard.
Karate chop.
But then he's like, wait a minute, are you holding back?
No, he says that with a magnificent sweep of his hair. He goes, are you holding back? And then he puts his hands in his hair and he fluffs it behind him and it flows like around his hair in a magnificent mane. And then Kane taunts him.
I can't decide if I love or hate his hair in this. I'm not going to lie.
I love it. So, especially, I love it when Rob Benedict put it on as a parody, faking it of him. That was also hilarious. So, we also get more alliteration here because while Kane is taunting him, he says, there is no resisting the mark or the blade, only remission and relapse, which is very depressing.
Remission and relapse. I think somebody told me that when I tried to quit smoking the first time.
That's positive.
Yeah.
I feel like that is like the worst, like AA motto. Like there's no resisting. There's only remission and relapse.
Remission and relapse. I wrote it down too because I was like, damn, that's harsh. Yeah. And Kane's like, look, this is all mistake. He tells Dean that this, that he misunderstood Castiel. He calls Castiel his pet angel, and that Dean is just overtaken with reckless bravado. He knew that Dean would come for him. He knew he would bring the blade, and it's the one thing he wants. And he fucking Jedi mind tricks the ODT to his hand.
Yep. And so this was all a play. Dean was played this whole time because what Kane really wanted was to get his hands on ODT. And once it is in his hands, he just orgasms away. They all do. I don't know what the power of the thing has. The donkey teeth just like makes you go.
Yeah. And like Kane keeps talking while he air chokes Dean about how he cares for him. This is a favor and I'm saving you from your fate. Because he's living Kane's life in reverse.
Yes, he asked him, have you never mused upon the fact that you were living my life in reverse? And I don't think Dean Winchester has ever mused once in his fucking life. I think he has wallowed, he's pondered, he's contemplated, he's bitched.
He's not a muser.
He's never mused.
Not a muser. Not a muser. So Kane tells Dean that Dean's story will end by killing his brother.
So that's a huge bomb that just got dropped.
He's like, first you're going to kill Crowley. You'll have mixed feelings about that, but you'll do it for reasons and it's fine. Then you're going to kill Castiel. And that's going to be really fucking upsetting and it's going to be hurtful. You're going to be hurt, but that's whatever. Then comes the murder you'll never survive.
It's going to turn you savage. You're going to kill your brother Sam. And all the sands in between his destiny is this blade. But then
he says, you're welcome, my son. And he's going to stab Dean, but Dean grabs the knife off of Kane's waistband and cuts off Kane's fucking hand.
Yep. Maybe you don't have a big ass knife. That's what happens when you carry around a big ass knife, Kane. Someone cuts off your fucking hand.
Kane is very, like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would be upset if someone cut my hand off, but I feel like Kane's supposed to be like this big, bad, like, knight of hell. And he kind of like falls over with his broken
hand. He lost his hand. I mean, it's gotta be surprising. It's not what he was expecting.
No, but still.
Yeah, and I missed my line about can't stop, won't stop. Won't stop. Kane can't stop, won't stop, because Dean doesn't want to kill him, right? And he is just like, I can't. Your hair is too great, and
tell me I don't have to do this. Your hair is so glorious.
That's what his subtext is. Like there's a whole lot of like Ackles has got a lot of like subtext going on his face. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, your hair is magnificent.
And Kane's like, I'll never stop. So
He gets stabbed.
Yeah, well, we don't really show. I mean, we show it, but like Dean like walks behind him, and Kane just sits there kneeling, and he stabs him in the back. I thought it was weird.
Yeah, he just lets it happen. Also, do you have to floss, ODT?
Ew.
Questions I wonder. Then there's a bunch of thunder. And yeah, we cut to Dean just like walking down the stairs, looking pretty shooketh
as he goes to see Crowley, Cass, and Sam. And he's got 2 really bloody knives, and he's all beat up, and it's a sad fucking scene. And Crowley really, really wants ODT, but Dean hands it to Castiel, and Crowley is pissed.
What? You lied! How dare you, Dean?
Not the first time today. Because I lied to you that you were on freaking Kane's list, too.
Uh-oh.
And then Dean collapses into Sam.
You did it!
Oh.
Way to go, Dean. So now we're going to go back to hell.
Yeah. And Crowley finds Rowena and is pouring himself a drink. And she is ready with her I told you so's, and she has bags packed, and she is
And then the most adorable little carpet bags that like every witch in the show has. And I don't know why witches get to have those bags, but I want them.
And he's like, stop manipulating me. And she's like, no, fuck that. This is about pride. And I was really proud to find you being the king of hell all by yourself. That was really cool. But it breaks my heart to see what you've become being a bitch for the Winchesters.
Yeah, because you're a sad wee boy on the throne who will flop ass up every time the Winchesters call. Damn.
And she leaves. Burn.
And she leaves her bags. When she take her bags.
So she didn't really leave then. And then back at the bunker, Sam and Dean are in the kitchen. And Sam tells Dean how proud he is. And that, there's cause for hope here, even without the cure. And Castiel comes back. He's like, yes, I hid ODT, so we should be all good. And Dean's like, yeah, that's amazing. I'm going to go sleep for 4 days now, and walks out. And Castiel's like, hey, Sam, how do you think Dean really is? And Sam has read this situation very clearly and knows that Dean is in trouble.
Yep. And that's how we end.
That's it. Dean's faking being all right.
What a shock.
Yeah, it never happened.
Never. That seems so unlike him.
He's
usually so honest with his feelings.
What?
Anyway, so you got people who were in this episode?
Casting couch. It's the casting couch. Were they on that show that time with that guy? La 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 la.
Yeah, I do have some. We don't have a huge cast in this episode, though. It's mostly people we already know. But Austin Reynolds was played by Julian Hicks.
Who is probably a grown-up now.
He is. He was a character reenactor in Hitler's Last Stand miniseries. Tommy Tolliver was played by Roman Blom. He's been in episodes of The Flash and Real Detective. Our prison guard was played by Simon Chin. He's actually done a lot of stunt work, including on shows like Shogun and Peacemaker. He's also been on episodes of Fringe, X-Files, Arrow, Bates Motel, Lucifer, Altered Carbon, Killing Eve, Series of Unfortunate Events, iZombie, Siren, Charmed, Snowpiercer, Resident Alien, and Kung Fu. He was the sound engineer in the movie Just Friends, like the role, not like an actual. He was Barry in Always Be My Maybe and Elf Flobo in Noelle. Our warden Skeef was played by Keith Martin Gordy. He's been in episodes of MacGyver, 4400, Smallville, Alcatraz, and The Order. He was had a CEO in The Watchmen and has done a lot of Hallmark.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
good times.
Yeah. Are you sad about Kane?
No, I mean, good hair can't always last forever,
Good hair can't always last forever.
No, but I mean, I don't know. It was like he had
it coming.
He had it coming. But I mean, why did he have to go and like start killing off all his family? He went crazy and he didn't have to do that. Like
he did. So I think that, it's fair. I
think we get a lot of we get a lot of questions of, nature versus nurture in this episode.
Sure.
And really, delving into Dean and Dean fighting the Mark. And so what does that mean, right? Can he have enough of himself in order to fight the inevitable? Like, is it only because the genetic marker?
Inevitable?
Yeah.
Is it inevitable? And is the mark then genetic that it's been put on him? Or is that the, what's the other term that you use?
Epigenetic?
Yeah.
Well, because with
epigenetic,
well, it would have changed, right? So did all the stuff change that, but the question though also is, are Sam and Dean also in that line? Are they in that line of, but then also I'm going to say that a lot. But there is also the bombshell of you have to kill Sam, right? Which is, it makes sense. Cain and Abel, right?
But does he have to? Or is he just saying that that's the path that he's on? And maybe he can fight it because Cain lives by predetermination and Dean lives by free will. So maybe he doesn't have to.
No, but it's the whole point of the Mark of Cain was about killing your brother. Right.
It's true.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Does Dean Winchester kill Sam Winchester?
At least not for 5 more years. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. He can come back to life. He didn't
show me. It would not be the first time. Not be the first time someone has beat death on Supernatural.
Oh, poor Julian. All right. So stop beating death. All right. I think we'll end on that note. All right. Cheers, Dirk.
Cheers, bitch.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Be a Dick production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.